Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? If you were watching the NFL playoffs over the weekend, there was a pretty consistent theme. It was former Saints making big plays. And coming up this weekend for the conference championships, there are 13 former Saints on the four teams that are going to be playing on Sunday. With Cincinnati, Philly, Kansas City, and San Francisco. And look, some of them are, Ian Book is on the roster in Philadelphia. That's a quarterback that Saints drafted, but he's not exactly making an impact. Cam Tom is on the Eagles practice squad. Jack Rabbit and Willie Snead are both on the 49ers practice squad. So, there's some. But by and large, what I'm talking about here, and I think you understand it, but it's players that the Saints drafted that they let get away. And I kind of have a glass half full and a glass half empty approach at this. And actually, let me know your thoughts on this. You can email me, you can tweet me at Matt Moscona, you can jump in the Bayou Ford YouTube chat on the Watch 1045 ESPN YouTube channel. You can text in the 225. It's 396-4400, 396-4400, 396-4400. Curious your thoughts on watching these former Saints perform in the playoffs and if that gives you confidence, for the organization moving forward. And here's what I mean. So, my goodness, you see Von Bell make a play, that seals the game. You see Trey Hendrickson, pressuring Josh Allen, actually forced would look like it might be a fumble, scooped up by Von Bell and run into the end zone. They ruled it an incomplete pass. Literally on Saturday, Daryl Johnston, Moose on the Fox broadcast, says, how in the world do the Saints let this guy get away? Talking about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. And we're all thinking the same thing because it's been a familiar chorus with New Orleans. If it was Von Bell or Trey Hendrickson, if it's C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Boston Scott scored a touchdown. Zachary native, played at Louisiana Tech. The Saints drafted him, cut him. Boston Scott scored a touchdown in the postseason for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's tough to watch these guys that are playing well that you drafted and you couldn't keep. And I think there's two sides. I told you there's a glass half full and glass half empty part of this. The glass half full part is that the Saints organization very clearly knows how to scout and identify talent and draft. With few exceptions, the Saints recently, and I think we could probably point to when Jeff Ireland came aboard, because the Saints had a disastrous draft back in 2015. I know we've talked about that 2015 draft before, but and even you can go back to 2014, which was Brandon Cooks, Stanley Jean-Baptiste, Kyrie Ford, Vinny Sunseri, Ronald Powell, and Tavon Brooks. They followed up in 2015, and some of those guys became players in the league, but by and large, used a lot of picks that never panned out for you. Andrus Peat, Stephon Anthony was a first-round pick. It was a total flop. Holy Kikaha, you took in round 2, was a flop. Garrett Grayson, we know the story there. P.J. Williams, Davis Tull, Tyler Davison, a couple of those guys became starting caliber players in the league. And then Damian Swan and Marcus Murphy. Only P.J. Williams and Andrus Peat are still with you, and Pete may be at the end of the run. But after that is when you started to hit. Rankins, Michael Thomas, Von Bell, David Onyemata, Daniel Lasco. That was your 2016 draft. We all know about the great 2017 draft. 2018 with Davenport, Traquan, Rick Leonard, Natrell Jameson, Cameron Moore. But then there's Boston Scott and Will Clapp in round 6 and 7. You found players who have hung around the NFL. And I guess the point I'm making is the glass half full part of this is the Saints know how to draft. They know how to identify talent. Their scouting department has a really successful hit rate. Like, you could look and say, All right, even 2021, Peyton Turner, Pete Werner, Paulson Adebo, Ian Book, Landon Young, and Kawan Baker. Jury's out on Peyton Turner, and it's disappointing so far, but you clearly hit on Pete Werner. You hit on Paulson Adebo in round 3. Ian Book's disappointing. Landon Young is on your roster and started a game for you this year. Kawan Baker, we know the story there. But you found starting caliber players. You found guys that have made your team, that have helped build your roster. The problem the Saints have had, and this is the glass half empty side of this conversation, is they have made the wrong decisions on who to pay. And some of that is bad luck. Like, there is nobody listening to me right now that can, in your right mind, honestly tell me you were mad when the Saints chose to pay Michael Thomas. That was as big of a no-doubter as you could have possibly had. And you could talk about whatever trepidation that you may have about paying a wide receiver, but you know what? Nobody in Cincinnati is going to be mad when they pay Jamar Chase. Nobody in Minnesota is going to be mad when they break off Justin Jefferson. And you could look across the league at examples of guys that are elite talent wide receivers. They get paid and they deliver. And Michael Thomas did that his first year of that contract in 2018. He had the record-setting season where he had 125, or 2019, I guess 2018 was the last year, then they broke him off, and then 2019. He had 149 receptions for 1,700 yards and 9 touchdowns. And then he got injured. It's bad luck. It's bad luck. I mean, you paid a guy who had been durable and was awesome and delivered for you, and then he got hurt for 3 years. It's just, I mean, that one's tough. But then you could look at a situation like Marcus Williams. You know, you chose not to pay Marcus Williams, and that seems so far to have come up snake eyes. You paid Marcus May instead of Marcus Williams, and I think you bet wrong there. Marcus May wasn't able to stay on the field. We can go back and look at the Von Bell decision. Malcolm Jenkins was a good player for you in his second run, but he was an aging player, and you chose not to pay a young, talented player in Von Bell whose best football was still ahead of him. And now Malcolm Jenkins is retired. You bring in Tyrann Mathieu, who led you in tackles this year. Not to say Tyrann had a bad year, but Von Bell's a guy in his prime who is playing on a championship caliber team and helping them build a defense. You chose Marcus Davenport over Trey Hendrickson. That's the part where you go, that's almost inexcusable. You were betting on your draft picks potential, your first-round draft picks potential, instead of a guy who clearly was, I mean, look, he was a double-digit sack guy, and the thought was, well, I need to see more than just 1 year. You had him in the building. You knew his work ethic. You knew the type of guy he was, the type of talent he was. You knew it when you drafted him. Why wouldn't you bet on him in the next contract? And that's the problem the Saints have had. It's not identifying the talent and drafting them. It's the decisions they've made on who to pay that have bitten them. And it may be never more important than now. You have Drew Brees' contract. You know, Drew Brees is about to go off the books. You're not paying a franchise quarterback. You're probably going to draft one. And we can have all the conversations we want about who they might be able to acquire at the quarterback position. But realistically, you're not getting Lamar Jackson. Baltimore's going to franchise him. I mean, okay, you want to go make a play for Jimmy Garoppolo? How much are you going to pay Jimmy Garoppolo? You want to trade for Jordan Love? Are you okay throwing $100 million into Jordan Love? Of course you're not. So you're going to draft a quarterback, and hopefully you hit on a guy on a rookie deal, and it allows you the cap space and the capital to be able to go pay free agents and keep your guys. You got to choose the right ones. Pete Werner looks like a no-doubter, right? Hopefully they sign him, keep him, he stays healthy. And then the next wave of draft picks as well. So, listen, I get it. I was on Twitter all weekend, man, and I saw everybody's reaction when you see Boston Scott score a touchdown and you see Trey Hendrickson get a pressure and a sack, and you see everything. I saw everything you saw. I watched it, and it's massively frustrating. I get it. But the positive is it's a team that knows how to, it's a scouting department, coaching staff, front office that has now a long enough track record, really going back to 2016, of identifying talent in the draft and picking them. The issues have come at who to pay on their second deal. Maybe they've learned some of those lessons. Maybe they've rectified that. If they have, now there's reason to be optimistic moving forward. Ultimately, your head coach, you don't know how I feel about it, and you've got to figure out quarterback or you're never winning at an elite level. But look at San Francisco. No one's going to argue San Francisco has had elite level quarterback play, meaning they've won because of their quarterback. They've built the best roster in the NFL, and they've had 3 different quarterbacks win surrounded by that talent. I'm not trying to minimize Brock Purdy. What he's done is incredible. But nobody's going to throw Brock Purdy on a list right now with Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow, okay? That's my point. Can you build your roster up enough to find that guy? Maybe, and that's the hope. That's the glass half full. So you're going to go watch championship weekend on Sunday, and you're going to see Hendrickson and Von Bell and Boston Scott, CJ Gardner-Johnson, a lot of dudes that used to wear the black and gold, guys that the Saints drafted that are now making plays for someone else. And you're going to lament that, and I get it. But that's crying over spilled milk at this point. The hope is that same front office continues to draft well and moving forward makes better contract decisions on who to retain. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.